Hello guys, I'm Superon. Welcome back to the channel. Last week we had another look at my poor neglected Zafira GSi. I got this really high spec Zafira a little while ago as a non-runner, and the intention was to get a new engine, swap it over, and that's what we got the other one for last week. If you remember from previous episodes, we had a look inside the combustion chamber with the camera on a stick and found a whole load of carnage. The engine had been run lean because of a backwards fuel filter had got blocked, starved the injectors, ran it lean and melted the top of the spark plugs and rattled around and made a real mess in there. All the side of the bores are all peppered, the top of the pistons have all got bits missing, but amazingly with a bit of tinkering it does still run and drive and doesn't smoke whatsoever. It's a little bit lumpy and it does breathe quite heavy because obviously the piston rings aren't really doing much of a job with a fully shot blasted bore. So today we need to get the turbo off for the other one, so it's a good place to strip it down and have a look inside. So bearing in mind this one had super duper low compression on the centre too. The outsides were okay, but overall this engine is really sick. It's not been started for months and months, but amazingly it does still run. So if we stick the battery on, let's just see if it will fire up. That is pretty amazing. It's not super happy, but when you know what's inside it, you can understand why. When you take these off, that is choo-choo smoking out there. So let's turn it off. I don't want it too hot. I want to take the turbo off. So let's see how easy this comes out. And the turbo is off. That wasn't too bad to come out. None of the bolts snapped, they all came out all right at the head. The biggest struggle was getting to that bottom banjo bolt. It's right down the bottom there. That's mainly because I didn't jack it up. I was just trying to squeeze around. I tried taking the radiator fan off, but one of the bolts there was just spinning, so we couldn't get that out. But managed to get it out. We'll get it all cleaned up. All looks in perfect condition. No oil out the exhaust. All spins freely. Hardly any play, so we'll get this cleaned up and get it on to this one. Just taken some bits off and found got the remains of a bird in here. Yeah. And we're ready to come off. No, we're not. Now we're ready to come off. And here is the carnage. Had to switch to my phone because GoPro wasn't really picking it up. They shouldn't really be textured like that. Number 3, bit of a mess. Number 4, that's how they should look. Number 1, had the spark plug come off in it. Bit of a mess, but this still had perfect compression. Number 2, wow, see the edge of the piston all crumbled away. Not looking good. So, bit of a mess. Let's have a look at the cylinder head. And here's the cylinder head. As you can see, that same cylinder is destroyed inside. And this is the one that had that spark plug missing. its end. I reckon that's a chunk of it there and a chunk of it there. But this number 2 has had a hard time. Number 3 isn't looking great. Number 4, even that's got a few depth marks or something in there. It's amazing that this still ran. Could have probably got it on the road because it didn't smoke. Valve stem seals, just a tiny little weep on that one. Little one on that one. These are okay. It shows how resilient these are. So I've given the head a clean up and you can see the damage a little bit better now. This one, quite the mess. Number 3, but number 2 is peppered. You can see something's been in there and just been pounding up and down on everything. But the actual firing, where the head gasket sits, is perfect. I've seen heads worse than this go again. So the valves are seated pretty well. So although it looks like a lot of carnage, with a skim and a lap, I think this head would live again. It's quite impressive that it still ran with all that inside it. Well, looks like British summer is over. So let's get this indoors. Right, I think we are all disconnected and ready to drop this down on the subframe. Bottom arms out so the legs will stay there. Trap rod's off because the steering rack stays with the subframe. I couldn't get the trap rod end off this side, so we're going to take the whole hub down with this one. So I've just disconnected the leg and left that up there. Hopefully the whole lot will drop out together. So we are fully disconnected. Let's see what we've forgot. So far, so good. As easy as that. That's all the bits all stripped off. You can see how grotty this one is. Has some major oil leaks all the way around. And all the damage inside. So now let's get it off the subframe and get the subframe back in. So that's the clutch, flywheel and all the sump off. Great news, the clutch looks pretty much brand new. It's the LUK clutch and it all looks perfect. So that's going to be going back on. And then we've got the Vauxhall two-piece sump. I don't know what they were thinking when they designed this. Got the upper half and the lower half, but there's still some hidden bolts inside here. So you've still got to take the lower half off just to get these bolts to take this half off. And then they put the oil level sender in the bottom, but the plug for it is in the top. And I think they must have had a leak in there, judging by this massive bit of silicone that they had going round the plug. So give me a leaky red top sump anytime. But I'll keep on going because I want to get these pistons and rods out and have a good look. So let's give these a little clean up and have a better look at them. So I've given them a good wipe down and you can see some quite major damage. This is number 2, this was the worst piston. As you can see, the bore is no better. Got really deep craunches up and down. And as we saw on the camera, it's also really peppered all over, the same texture as the top of the piston. Quite a mess. Number 3, it's had some scrapes going right up and down to the head gasket line, and again a real peppered, it's almost like it's been shot blast up and down. Number 1, it's not so bad. But still, again, a lot of scrapes going right up to the top. Number 4, you can see where there's a shiny patch halfway down. So it's definitely been rubbing on all of these. It's amazing that this still ran. Let's turn it around. This is the other side of number 2. There's number 1. It's not too bad. You can see at the bottom of the bore there, the piston's definitely been touching the cylinder wall. So all in all, quite a lot of destruction. I think the head gasket has been on there a long time because it was stuck pretty well to the head. But there's no head gasket issues on this engine, so it was still working. Just I think it's been on there a long time. So I think this block's destined for the scrap heap. Probably could be bored out, oversized pistons or a forged build. But for me, I've got a better option. Let's go and have a look at these pistons. And here it is all cleaned up. Got all the pistons cleaned down and in the order. So this is number 1. You see this was one with the end of its spark plug missing, which could be those gouges in there. Here is most certainly the worst one, number 2. If you've seen a piston before, should not look like that. Here's number 3, almost as bad. Here's number 4, which actually is pretty good by the looks of it. There's no scoring, no bits missing. So we might have one good piston. All the edges on the others are in real bad shape. You can see the scoring on the side where it's been rubbing on the cylinder wall. All the bits being mashed around. Dents on the corner or dent marks. And the shells don't look in too good condition either. Lots of pitting. I think they were just about ready to let go by the looks of that. Certainly not a lot of meat left. You can see it's got lots of pickup on there as well. Not ideal. And then here's the cylinder head that came off. See number 1's got these big dents in. Number 2 looks just like the piston. Has been battered. Number 3, again looks just like the piston, mirror image of how everything has just been stamped together. And number 4 is what they should look like, so it should be nice crisp edges, not like that. And the rings, this one had good compression, all the rings are nice and free. This one had low compression. You can see the ring is stuck in the top ring. Whether it's where it's got hot and the piston's expanded and nipped it in. There's quite a lot of damage on that corner. And this one had low compression as well, and what I found when I took it out, broken ring on this one. Whether that's due to picking up something or just overheating on this cylinder or just the mess inside. This one all looks all fine. The rings are all free still. You can see on the side all the way down where it's been scraping up and down the bore that we saw in the block. Really bad on that side. It shouldn't be rubbing up and down like that. If you look on the good one, still got the machined marks going sideways. This one, got them up and down where it's been rubbing. Not ideal. So I took the other bits out as well. Had to get the balancer shafts off to get the rods out. Bit of a wacky design on them. Got the oil pump and had a look in the strainer. There's not really anything in there. It's not blocked, most certainly. And took the clutch off, and great news on that. It looks like a pretty much brand spanking new clutch in there. Certainly got a new slave cylinder on there. I haven't cleaned that up, that's how it came out. So you see the rest of the box. Got that shiny bit. And judging by the flywheel, the last clutch did let go pretty spectacularly. So that's the result. That'll be going on when we do the swap. So what a mess. So we've got some more additions to go on the sacrifices to the god of speed shelf down the G unit. These will sit up there proudly as trophies. But I don't think they'll go again. Lucky we've got another one. And just having a look inside the block again. The crank looks okay, doesn't look like any damage. Bit of general wear. But you can see inside, on all the inside of the block, it's all full of tar. The inside of the sump as well. This has definitely been neglected, its oil changes. You can see in there, got all this sludgy build-up, which is purely down to missing oil changes or extending them too long before oil changes. So this poor little Z20LET didn't stand a chance. We worked out in a previous episode the whole reason it failed was because of a problem with the fuel system, made it run lean, and that's what caused all the damage in the pistons from overheating, melted all the spark plugs, destroyed all the pistons, and just made a whole mess in there. And that was all down to the fuel filter being put in backwards and being blocked and starving the fuel supply to the engine. So I actually watched a video just the other day on a blue Zafira GSi, and the guy had done 230,000 miles in it. He'd owned it nearly all his life. It's quite a cool video to watch. So it just does go to show if they're serviced correctly and looked after, these engines can go on and on. He said it's still on the original clutch, right up to 190,000 miles. So with regular servicing and looking after them, they do last. But unfortunately, this previous owner didn't go down that route. So it's done 120,000 miles. The whole of the inside is full of this like carbon build-up. So it just goes to show how important regular servicing is. It'd be interesting to have a look in the other engine, in the black one, because it's done 168,000 miles. But that's been meticulously maintained all through its life. It's got full service history. So it would be quite interesting just to whip the sump off, just to have a look what it's like. Because I doubt very much it'll be like this. And that's going to wrap up this episode. We've got as deep as we can go inside this engine. We've got it stripped down to its bare bones and found all this impressive damage. And I think the thing that's even more impressive, that it was still running and driving, and I've got it running well enough that I probably could have sold it on to someone just saying that it needs a service, when in fact inside is this carnage. So as many problems as the Z20LET does have, you can't fault it for being a trooper and ploughing on through. I can't think of many other engines that would be driving around with half a ring missing, with all the top rings gouged into the cylinder bores, with far from ideal textures on top of the piston. So it gets some points for me for perseverance. The cylinder head has taken quite a battering, but I have seen heads worse than this go again. Earlier I filled up all the combustion chambers with brake fluid just to see if it leaks down, and surprisingly all the valves are still sealed. Even on this one that's completely peppered all the way around, the valves are still actually sealing. So if we did want, this head could go again. With a bit of tidying in the combustion chamber and then a fresh skim, this one will be as good as new. But unfortunately, I don't think the same can be said about the pistons. They are going to have to be retired to the shelf. So great news on the clutch. I'll definitely be taking that out and swapping it over when the engine comes out of the black one and goes into the blue one. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Everyone loves a good bit of destruction. And this is the first time working on a Zafira, so the way it all came out as one great big package made life really, really easy. I'm definitely going to be doing that when I drop it out of the black one and put it in the blue one. The whole lot's coming out together. Rad packs, aircon pumps, the whole lot is going to come out as one, just like they do it in the factory, and then goes up nice and easy. All the plugs are there to be connected, all the lines disconnected in just the right places. The whole lot out together, which made my life a lot easier. So make sure you subscribe, because next week we're going to be working on the black one, getting that turbo swapped over, and hopefully driving that around for a couple of months just to check it's all okay before dropping that out again and putting it into the blue one. So before long, we're going to be daddy cool. I'm going to have the Arden Blue Zafira GSi in my driveway, just like the adverts that we used to watch in the early 2000s. So until next time, make sure you have fun.